Hello, everyone. Thanks for standing by. As a reminder, this event is going to be recorded and will be archived at on the Graphics Pro website, which is graphics-pro.com. I'm James Anderson. I'm lead editor of Graphics Pro magazine. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to DTG or DTF Printing, which is right for you. Today's webinar is presented by Terry Combs and Jay Busselle from Equipment Zone. Terry and Jay will talk about the opportunities and key challenges in choosing the right printing technology so that you can make informed decisions and find the printing solution that best suits your needs. Please stay tuned after the presentation for a Q&A session. Throughout the presentation, if you have questions for our speakers, you can add them through the Q&A feature, and we'll get to as many as possible. Now, are we ready to go, guys?
Yes, we are. Let's go.
It's all yours.
All right. Thanks, James. Appreciate that. We're excited to be here today. Terry, this is one of our favorite topics. I couldn't be more excited to be covering some of this territory with you, my friend. So for those who don't know me, I'm Jay Busselle. I'm the VP of Marketing at Equipment Zone, and I'm joined by my coworker and good friend, Terry Combs, who is an industry icon, practically a legend, and has been very, very well versed in this industry. And so we're excited to be here today. Terry, thanks again. When we were putting this together, we were talking about how apparel decorators are often kind of facing some confusion, a challenge, a little bit of misinformation or opinions online. Imagine that. Trying to decide between direct-to-garment printing and direct-to-film transfers, or direct-to-film printing, DTF versus DTG. And so we just thought, boy, we could probably share a little bit about, which one, what do they do, what do they accomplish, trying to figure it all out, the key challenges, the upsides, some potential pitfalls. And so, that's really what the purpose of this webinar is. We're going to try to figure out how to help you make an informed decision, find a solution that best fits for you and your business, because everybody's running a different kind of business and serve different types of businesses and people and have customers from varied sectors. So, Terry, we should just jump in, right?
We should jump in, Jay. You and I are longtime decorators, some of us longer than others, but we have these conversations every day with folks who are trying to figure out, what technology is going to best suit what I want to do. So hopefully we can address all that for our listeners today.
We do want to take that time. And so we'll probably be on for about 40-45 minutes, depending on our banter, and see how far we get carried away. But then we'd like to save some time at the end for some questions. And so there are helpers. We have some amazing technology, and Graphics Pros put together this amazing opportunity for us. And so folks are helping us behind the scenes. So if you do ask a question now, that's fine. We're going to try to curate those and save them to the end. But we will keep an eye out on that chat in case something really critical that's on topic pops up. So let's get clicking. Terry, I think it would be appropriate for us to, take a half a step back. We don't want to go too far back in time, but to talk about how did we get here? What's the history? DTG printing first, if that's okay with you, and give us a little bit of insight.
Yeah, Jay, really the market started changing about 20 years ago. And how do we service this market where the number of screen printed decorated garment orders was going up. And I guess screen printing and different types of decoration, but the quantities per order were going down. And, Jay, it's an Amazon world. I want it custom, I want one, and I want it now. And so we needed to find a way to decorate shorter runs of garments without breaking our backs with screens and setups and things like that. So Matt Rome, who many people know, is the person who had the first patent on direct-to-garment printing, and that patent dated back to 1996. So
a tip of the cap to our friend Matt Rome. Thank you, Matt.
Exactly right, and it became more of a practical thing a few years later, about 20 years ago. Scott Fresner at U.S. Screen Printing Institute and Brother, and there were one or two others that came out with direct-to-garment printers, CMYK only at the time. About 18 years ago, Scott Fresner and got together with DuPont and created white ink to print through an inkjet head. And you know, Jay, in those early days, Scott used to describe it as, we're not on the cutting edge, we're on the bleeding edge, because those were true pioneers in those days who were trying to run direct-to-garment printers, because you know they were all converted over desktop printers, which means the print head wasn't made for the DTG inks, and it was a rough ride early on, but you know those days.
Listen, Terry, when you say pioneers, I'm going to sprinkle in some other adjectives: renegades, possibly misfits, willing to take massive risk. How about that?
Yes, absolutely. But you know,
thank goodness they did. Thank goodness they did.
Exactly right. And you know, I was teaching the screen printing classes at U.S. Screen in those days, and so I got to see this develop right from the ground up, and trying to figure out how to apply pre-treat. We were even screen printing pre-treat onto shirts to find a way to get it from the bottle to the garment. But about 10 years ago, DTG really became a viable commercial enterprise. With the purpose-built machines that were built with print heads that were made for the DTG inks. And so all those horrendous clogging issues and things like that kind of went by the wayside. But it was about 20 years ago that DTG made its real entry into the world, and everything changed that day, you know?
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Everything did change. And I remember some of those days. And I want to make sure that our audience and our listeners understand that you were there. You personally were there in those early days. That doesn't mean that you didn't come through the screen printing traditional route. You did, but we'll talk about that later. But I mean, what a time. I remember when you guys invited me over to see that first printer that had the DuPont white ink. And I was shaking my head like, tell me this is real? This is possible? So
exactly right.
Quite a ride, my friend.
At trade shows, people would come to our booth and say, no, it's impossible to print white ink through a print head. I'm like, really? Just look down. It's happening right here. You can see it.
Truth
but
be
you know,
told,
Jay, I remember when Scott Fresner showed me that first print on the original T-Jet. Back then, it was just T-Jet. You had to have the T-Jet 2 to call it the T-Jet 1, just like World War II, right? But I remember turning to Scott when I saw that shirt being printed, and I said, you know, everything just changed in our world, didn't it? He said, I think it has. And you know, of course, there were a lot of people at the time, Jay, who said, you know, this is going to replace screen printing. And I remember saying to them, no, this is just another tool for a screen printer to use. And that has proven to be true.
Yeah, words of wisdom. I'm glad that you had that perspective, because you know, look, all of this technology can be challenging. And then you fast forward to today and it's moving even quicker. We just thought it was important to kind of take this little ride down, you know, memory lane for a second so that we could stage this appropriately. And we will definitely be talking about current models and what's in store, and what's on tap for tomorrow. So I couldn't help myself. I had to go find on the Wayback Machine and the internet, Terry. You can see on the screen, we've got one of the T-Jets. I don't know if that was a design that, you know, you remember or not, but I almost kind of have a faint memory of that Rolex watch for some reason.
Right, that print there, early days, and that's a T-Jet 2, and right next to it is the VelociJet, the original machine offered by Equipment Zone.
Yeah, and so that's why I wanted to bring it up. It was an award winner back then. I think it was the SGIA show, but whatever show it was. And the fact is that, you know, Equipment Zone has also been in this game from the very get-go, from the early days, those 18 years ago days. And so it's important for our audience to know that. I mean, certainly we're not here to try to just sell a printer. We're not, in fact, that's not the point at all. But we do want to be able to earn some trust. We do want to show, you know, the legacy and the history a little bit. So, but as all things, Terry.
That's how I know Harry from Equipment Zone, is because as soon as the first T-Jet came out, Harry signed, and Harry was selling screen printing equipment, and he became one of our very first dealers, and from there became the #1 T-Jet dealer, not just in the U.S., but the entire world, because we were selling internationally. And Equipment Zone has a long history with direct-to-garment printing, longer than most any other distributor out there.
And that's the truth, and that's the point, is that we've been around this technology from the early days. We don't drink the ink. We don't encourage that or recommend that, but we metaphorically, we drink the ink, if that makes sense. So, times change, printers evolve, things get better, improvements are made. And I think in those early days, almost everybody was trying to pirate those Epson print heads. And I think Epson had enough of that. So they said, hey, this looks like a game we need to get into. So was it about maybe 11 years ago, or coming up on 11 years ago?
In that neighborhood, the F2000 that you see there pictured. And again, Equipment Zone was actually selected because of the background in direct-to-garment printing, that Epson came to Equipment Zone and said, hey, we'd like you to be a dealer. So we were one of the first 6 dealers of the Epson printers as well. And so the F2000, the F2100, and there is the F2270, the current model of most commonly used model. There are a couple of other DTG printers available from Epson, but the 2270 is by far the most popular that we sell.
Yeah, I also think it's important that we talk about how the consumers were really, helping to drive part of that growth. So, it's interesting to see that feedback, right? The feedback that you would hear and I would hear and Equipment Zone would get, and of course, Epson too. So, what a time. Well, let's keep moving forward, because, now that we have that, let's give us a little background on DTF printing. I mean, this is something that's a newer, obviously. How did we get to this point, Terry?
Yeah, it's a little bit older than this, but about 3 years ago, it hit the marketplace with a splash. It's just it's all anybody could talk about, and that's really still the case. And I remember, I have an industry podcast, and my partner on the podcast, Aaron, called me and said, "Hey, what do you know about DTF printing?" And I said, I don't know. What is it? And that was just 3 years ago. And obviously we have jumped in with both feet into that realm as well. But, there was some early skepticism about it, especially from screen printers, T-shirt snobs, we like to call ourselves.
Whoa. Terry, let's be, I resemble that remark.
Well, and Jay, when I first saw it, I thought this looks like a novelty print, something that's not going to wash very well. And I was wrong. We at Equipment Zone, does lots and lots of testing of all products all the time, and also for other companies. As you know, Jay, we do a lot of testing for companies on their products and things like that to see how well they print, how well they wash, that sort of thing. And Equipment Zone stopped wash testing at 60 washings with a DTF transfer. So I was just blown away by that. And not everybody loves the feel of DTF. It does have kind of a plastic transfer feel about it, but the consumer drove the market. The consumer
there we go.
Going to screen printers saying, no, I want that 12 color print, and I want 5 of them. And I think this, here's a shirt that I bought someplace else. And screen printers are like, well, that's a DTF transfer. Okay, that's what I want. And so
right.
Screen printers have gone kicking and screaming into this.
Well, I guess like you said, sometimes we get stuck in our ways, or we're comfortable with what we know. And, we like a certain thing, and the market also likes certain things. And I think that the gap was bridged as the technology got better, as the transfers became a little bit more pliable, a little bit softer. And so you can see on the screen here now, of course, we're pretty proud of these. These are both from Equipment Zone, but these are commercial grade, industrial level, professional direct to film printers. And this is a whole system now that we have. So in 3 years, we've gone from zero to this.
Exactly right. And our customers range from folks that are doing their own transfers and applying them to garments, or just doing transfers by the roll and selling them. We have multiple customers that have multiple of these machines and printing all day long DTF transfers and selling them out there into the decorating world.
Yeah, it's true. And so I think it's important for us to also kind of establish a direction. And you know, we have a friend, Johnny Shell, who you've personally known for much longer than I have. You two probably grew up together in the screen printing early days.
A little bit, yeah.
But he's now the principal analyst at Keypoint Intelligence, and he was kind enough to share a few stats with us. We prepped him and said, you know, Terry and I are going to do this webinar, and we really want it to be informative. We want people to walk away with this kind of knowing how to make a good choice, you know, not necessarily which, but maybe both or one over the other, depending on who they serve. And he was so kind to share a couple of key quotes with some real data that they've gathered. And I was blown away by this. I mean, if you read this, the print volumes of DTF are expected to have a compound annual growth of 41% between now, and that was really the 2020, end of 2022, through 2027. I mean, Terry, we would be jumping up and down for 20% growth.
Oh yeah, that would be almost unheard of. But 41% annually growth. But you know, being a part of this DTF industry now, I absolutely believe it. It's almost difficult to keep machines on the floor. They are being purchased, and you know, as I mentioned, we have customers that have as many as 4 side by side, just cranking out transfers. And it's really this technology has become such a major part of the industry in such a short, you know, 3-year window of time.
Yeah, and I'd like to believe that a lot of the lessons that we learned through the DTG growth curve, we were able to condense it down and not be as slow, not be as concerned, not be as cautious with this learning curve, with DTF and the trajectory that it's on. I'd like to believe that. I mean, what's your take on that? Do you have opinion there?
100%, because we already knew how to, with DTG, we already knew how to get a water-based ink through a print head, and the ink is incredibly similar. And so that was easy enough. And then the adhesive powder, this revolutionary new adhesive powder is the exact same adhesive powder we've been using for decades making screen print transfers. So the technology was all there. It just had to match it together and put it onto a film, and away we go. So it's been fast developing.
And when you say away we go, I think of, you know, that growth is also new, completely new growth, but some of the growth is taking away from some of the other printing technologies, some of the other decorating techniques. And so when we talked to Johnny, he was like, oh yeah, there are some displacements. You know, screen printers might be affected, embroiderers might be affected. And so when he gave us this quote, it was a little bit more right up his alley, which is academic. And I'm sitting here reading through this going, okay, wait. So I think what he's trying to say is that the biggest amount of growth for DTG is going to be at the top of the funnel where the largest printers are, meaning, you know, those big giant oval printers or hybrid printers. And so I mean, I guess the good news is the growth is still going to be there, but, you know, it's going to be at a different level. But I just thought you probably have some insight on this because, of course, at Equipment Zone, though we see them all and we like them all, we're pretty married to Epson. And so they don't have a ginormous printer, do they?
Well, no, not on that level, but you know, there's still huge interest in DTG, and we're going to talk about some of the advantages of DTG over DTF and vice versa later on in the presentation. But there is still growth on the smaller customer as well. The person that has one or two, 3 DTG printers, there's still growth there as well. It's just exploding on the high end.
Right. I'm really glad that you shared that. That's really important to know. We're not picking a side here, you know, small, medium, or large. We're just trying to show some data and where some growth is, and that the market constantly is flexing and you know, it's moving forward, and we just have to be adapted to what's happening. So. Love it. There's definitely growth at the single unit, small, first time, you know, DTG printer type of owners. So I'm really excited about the content as we move forward. We're about 20 minutes in here, and this next 20 minutes is going to be fabulous. We're going to get a little bit more specific with some of the main benefits, some of the what, some of the why, and some of the how. And Terry, nobody is prepped better than you to talk about, what are these key benefits? What are some of the things that come up? And so as you go, I have a hunch because, well, for one, we prepared together, but for two, because this is something you practically say every day.
Well, exactly right. This equipment is made for short runs, and the ability to do one custom garment and basically from the time you have the artwork to a finished garment in just a couple of minutes is just incredible. And Jay, with the huge growth of online stores and things like that, it just only makes sense to be able to have this technology.
Yeah, and you think about the short run and photorealistic or near photorealistic, multicolor, as many colors as you want, blows me away. Still, it's almost not fair. Let's be real.
Well, and unlimited colors, a screen printer, and by the way, screen printing is not going anywhere. I just taught a class last weekend in Phoenix at Workhorse Products. I just taught a class 3 weeks ago in screen printing at Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago. All the classes are full. It's all people new coming into the industry. Again, none of these technologies are replacing other technologies. It's just more arrows in the quiver for us. But for a screen printer, the bread and butter is 1 and 2 color work. That's where we make our money. And most screen printers don't have the capability of doing more than, say, 6 colors. And even then, I think that DTG and DTF are probably going to take a big slice of that multicolor marketplace. I think it's going to be maybe a dying craft for someone to do 6, 7, 8 color screen prints, other than, for concert shirts and things like that, where you're running thousands of them. But I think that the unlimited colors is a huge advantage because, CMYK, you can make 16 million colors out of CMYK. And so, and the fact that we can lay down a white underbase, you can print, you could print any graphic, any image you'll be able to print. Again, print quality is a big part as well, because as long as you start with 300 DPI artwork saved at full size, you are going to get a perfect photographic reproduction of that image. And a little more difficult to do with some other decoration methods. It takes a lot more skill to get high quality. And this is what screen printers love. And when I said screen printers went kicking and screaming into DTF, screen printers love DTG because it feels like a really high-end screen print. And so it has that feel. So you'll see more screen printers going the DTG route than you will see them going the DTF route.
Yeah, a lot are jumping into it for that reason. It complements their business so well. Well, not just screen printers, embroiderers,
Sure.
Sign shops, people that are doing laser engraving, our friends that are promotional product agencies. Those folks, they all feel like, if you look at this list of main benefits, I can do one, full color, high quality, feels great. Wow. That checks a lot of boxes for a lot of growth. So
exactly.
Love it. Love the comment, by the way, Michelle. Thank you. Love my Epson DTG and the ability to print DTF on it as well. We'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. So thank you for the feedback there in the comment. What happens, though, is that, guess what? You talked about DTG printing, but now there are benefits that are more than that. Is this like I get 2 printers for 1, Terry? Is that what you're telling me?
Jay, it's exactly like that.
How does that work? It's such a mystery to me. Help me.
Well, and Jay, with DTG printing, you're pretty married to 100% cotton and high cotton content blends, like an 80-20 sweatshirt. Once you get down to 50-50, you're doing some trickery to get a good print with a DTG printer. You're adding some extra steps. So by being able to do a DTF transfer with the DTG printer, you can all of a sudden you can do a wide variety of substrates. You can basically do a transfer and apply it to nearly any fabric from 100% cotton to 100% polyester. And so it opens the door to a wide variety of substrates, and not just fabric. Jay, you're the great experimenter. You've printed on cardboard, and you've printed
well,
some of the items.
It's funny you bring that up. Somebody in the chat's asking about how do I print on a paper product like the front of a binder? And it's like, hey, guess what? I may not know the exact specific times and temps, but what I can tell you, Teresa, thank you, is that 100%. We've experimented with all kinds of substrates, and that's why we said the word substrate, not just textiles, because you can put this on cork and you can try other products. And we have a slide that'll show a few of those coming up. But what a fun ride! Who knew, right? And I would just say experiment.
For our listeners, anything that Jay can lay flat in a heat press, he will DTF on. So
yeah, and all I'm going to do is play with times and temperature, kids. So if I can, it's kind of, they call it the J rule. Jay can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Well, and the question comes up, Jay, also is, well, do I have to switch out my ink, or are there all these extra steps? There's not. It's the same DTG printer. It's the same software. It's the same ink. You don't have to change anything. All you have to do is buy your film and buy your adhesive powder. And it's and Jay, this is true of all direct-to-garment printers. It's not just the Epson printer. All direct-to-garment printers are capable of doing DTF transfers.
Great point. Yeah, we need to, of course we have our favorite flavor. It happens to be the one on the screen, but I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of folks think that it's maybe unique, or others have, in the beginning, others used to say that. And that's partly why we like to make sure everybody knows. All right, so tell us more. Yeah,
easy maintenance is not all DTG printers are the same, but with an Epson anyway, it basically does its own maintenance. When you turn it off at night, it'll stay on for about 5 minutes and go through a cleaning cycle where it puts cleaning solution through the print head, flushes out your capping station. No loss of ink. All it's doing is basically cleaning that print head. And the only thing that you do is once a week, you'll go and clean around the capping station where the print head sits. So that's the maintenance. And Jay, this printer can be left sitting for 2 weeks. And that's a really big advantage, because when people call me up and say, I want to do DTF transfers, I don't think I'll be using it, every day. And maybe I might use it twice a week. I always steer them back to a DTG printer, because a DTG printer is going to give you the ability to leave that printer sitting without worrying about having an issue with your with clogging. And again, with the Epson, comes with a year warranty. Everything on the machine's covered under the warranty, including the print head. Comes with a guarantee that if you need service, Epson will have a technician to you within 24 to 48 hours, all covered under the warranty. And Jay, that warranty can be extended up to 5 years. And so you just pay for the additional years when you purchase the machine. You can do it afterwards. It costs a little bit more after you already own the machine, but it's anybody that will give you a 5-year warranty on an inkjet printer is pretty confident that you're not going to have any issues.
Yeah, that's huge, actually. And I want people to know, that listeners and anybody that's watching down the road, this isn't a sales pitch for us. This is just the reality. These are the facts. And if we were you, these would be the things that we would be asking. These would be the questions, yes. And this would be the information that's going to help you make a decision. So now that you know that that's true, with one printer, you're armed with the information to be able to make an informed choice. So I love this. I love the point you make. It is, if I'm a small business owner, and I've been one, that's what a lot of people forget, is that, many of the employees here at Equipment Zone have walked the walk. We've had our own businesses. We've been in the apparel decoration space. We've sold screen printing. We were screen printers, or we were DTG printers, or we had online tools and shops. So for us, these are the things that we think about. So love that. Thank you for sharing that. Terry, let's transition to, okay, we covered DTG printing. Then we covered DTG printing, but making DTF transfers on the DTG printer. So now you can walk us through, let's talk about DTF printing those transfers. What are some of the benefits there?
Yeah, standalone DTF printing is a huge part of our business now. And this is for somebody that wants to do larger volume. as much as, and am I speaking out of school, we're going to be introducing a new machine at the Printing United show that's going to be printing over 300 square feet per hour. And so that is a lot of DTF transfers. And everything from that down to a 17-inch wide machine for somebody that doesn't really have the space for a larger volume machine. But you can turn out a lot of high quality transfers. And Jay, cost of production, your average cost for a DTF transfer, and I know some of you are going to go, are you kidding me? Because a lot of folks out there in the marketplace are selling a 12-inch by 12-inch transfer for as much as $8. Your cost to produce that transfer for film, for adhesive powder, and for the ink is between 50 and 60 cents. The finished product cost, and that's so there's incredible profit ability in that, being able to do your own transfers.
Yeah, and of course before, you would have the cost of the printer, so we'll set that aside for a second. But yeah, comparing outsourcing to the cost of printing your own. Yeah, I love that.
Well, and Jay, it really comes down to control too. A lot of folks who buy equipment say, I've been jobbing out for a long time, and I just want to be able to say, oh, you know what, we need to print this job today. It's a little difficult to do when you're jobbing out. I mean, certainly difficult to get it the same day, and that's true of all types of this decoration methods. The DTG and DTF, being able to have the control to do it all yourself. Washability, we mentioned before, excellent washability, and something, Jay, when we were preparing for this, you and I talked about the fewer touch points. A screen printer, there you've got, and I keep referring to screen printing because that's my background, but all types of decoration, there's lots of steps involved. With DTG printing, once you get the machine running, once you send that first job and you get it loaded into the printer and then get that film loaded into your powder shaker dryer and it's ready to start going down the belt, you can actually walk away. Now, I'm not saying walk away for the day, but one person can run that machine. One person can go down to the end. They can cut film the transfers apart as they're coming out. They can come back and check and make sure everything's good with the ink. You're not tied to that machine like with any other decoration method. It's a difficult thing these days to hire people, and everybody out there that owns a business knows it. So one person can operate that machine start to finish without any difficulty at all.
Yeah, Terry, I want to jump in just for a second. A couple of quick points to clear up. Mark asked, is direct to garment DTG different than direct to substrate? I mean, I know that's last slide, but it is the same. It's just we're calling it different things. So thank you for that question, Mark.
There are people out there that like to try to change the names of things to fit their technology, but once the buying public comes, decides on a name like direct to film, that's what they're going to refer to it as, even though some people like to call it something else.
Yeah, exactly. And then we did get, can you print one small DTF transfer at a time, or do you have to print the entire sheet at a time?
Well, you could, what I would do is, I guess you could, single sheets on a DTG printer, you could, I believe, no one's ever asked me that, you could reuse that film, I would think.
I would think you could first of all cut down a small sheet if you wanted to go that route. You could do that, or you could. What we would probably recommend in the marketing world is, the sheet doesn't cost that much, so fill up the sheet. Make duplicates. Right. Make your own logo. Put a sleeve logo of a flag or something there, or use the whole sheet.
Or your own logo to use later on. But Jay, also these cut sheets come in 16 by 20. They come in 14 by 16. They come in 10 by 12. I mean, you could buy a pack of 10 by 12 and do one transfer if you chose to on it.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let's go back to main benefits. One of the things that I know has come up a lot in the last year, you touched on fewer touch points. There are fewer people needed for the process. So
Right.
now,
Well, and it's not a skilled labor job, to be perfectly frank. The person who's loading, who's creating or loading the artwork, that's probably the highest cost person. But somebody in your art department, or if you have an art department, can load those files. But the actual printing process and the powdering and the drying process, almost anybody could do that job. So it doesn't take a highly trained employee to run the printer.
Yeah,
not like a screen printer or an embroiderer or something like that, where you have to have a certain level of expertise.
It's a little less technical. And again, back to the if Jay can do it, anybody can do it. The reality is the images that you're seeing on the screen here are things that, to Terry's point earlier, those were all things I was experimenting with. Corrugated boxes, creating a kit, neoprene can coolies or koozies, whatever you want to call them, 100% vinyl, beanies that are, nylon blends, and, and paper, being able to do journal books, notebook covers, and so on and so forth. So for me, I see this as, wow, this is the, amazing process of what's possible. But that's a benefit to me, because I want to take this into a marketing space. I want to be able to lead with this. So, but
and Jay, you don't show it there, but one of the favorite things I've seen that you've done is actually put a DTF transfer on the mesh of a hat on the side. And
yeah. It's always that, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, I don't know, let's go find out. And it turns out you can. Yep. Yeah. So, we're getting a lot of good questions here. Some of them are very specific, and we appreciate that. We will definitely try to reach out to you with some of the specific answers if we don't hit them now. We're getting everything from does the glue, the question about glue and powdering and processes. We'll try to sprinkle a little bit of that in at the end, but I want to make sure we can cover through, this leads me to what is really the answer to the question, like, what's the process? Terry, is there anything else? Like, what are the other pieces of the puzzle? What are the other supporting equipment or components that I need?
Yeah, for DTG printing,
let's start there.
You need a method to pre-treat, whether that's an automatic pre-treat machine, which is the absolute best way to do it, to power sprayer or mist sprayer, hand sprayer. You can also buy shirts that are already pre-treated. More and more those are hitting the market. You have to have a heat press. The heat press is going to, you're going to use it to dry the pre-treat on the shirt. You're going to use it to cure the ink. Now, some people, I get this question a lot. Do I need a conveyor dryer? Many people buy a conveyor dryer because they don't know how to properly pre-treat and cure a DTF or DTG garment. And so they want to know if I can, if it will get rid of that box around my DTG print. And I always say, hey, I would love to sell you a conveyor dryer, but use less pre-treat and use less pressure and see if that doesn't fix it. Most people use too much pre-treat. So my recommendation on a conveyor dryer for a DTG printer is, once you have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 DTG printers, then a conveyor dryer makes sense just from a production standpoint. But I'm going to say 95% of people who have a single DTG printer just use a heat press to do their curing.
Yeah.
And then direct to film for
Terry,
standalone.
Can I jump in for a second? Sure. Sorry to interrupt you. Just want to, apparently you or I froze when you were saying the cost of the DTF print. So if we were doing a 10 by 12 or a 14 by 16, I guess, is typically the sheet size that we quote. What was the price you told the audience again? Could you say that one more time?
Well, on a single sheet print, you're going to be at maybe $1.25. On a roll printed on a standalone unit, you're at 50 to 60 cents. So it is less expensive to use a DTF standalone unit.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining that and adding the difference. I think that's very helpful. So back to direct to printing, and this is going to help when people talk about things like, powdering and trays, and they're doing maybe you could tell us a little bit about, what do I need? What's the support?
Well, for a DTF printer, you have to have a heat press. and because that's how they're applied. You need to have a heat press that will keep up with your production. If you have a unit that is churning out transfers, then you're probably going to have a dual platen heat press or something like that, where you can get a lot more production done, because you're heat pressing for about 15 seconds. Then you're going to take the film off, and then you're going to take a piece of buckram, which is like a coarse cotton, lay it on there and heat press it again for 5 or 10 seconds. And what that's going to do is going to make sure you get a really good adhesion, but it's also going to soften up the look of that. The process, if I'm powdering by hand, is I'm going to print my transfer on my DTG printer. I'm going to have a little tub from Target, have the powder in there. I'm going to dip one end into the powder and just kind of run it through and let it fall off, tap it a little bit to make it fall off. There's also an easy shaker, which means you take the film, put it inside there, close the door, push the button, and it's going to drop film on it and vibrate to take the powder off. Lots of folks are going that direction.
Yeah, it drops powder on it, and then it shakes it, and then that way it's all contained. Yeah,
it's all contained, and nobody's got their fingers in the powder or anything like that. But many people are going to that because you're talking about $2,000 for a unit like that, so it pays for itself pretty quick in just being efficient. And then take the powder back up to the top, and you can do a 16 by 20, you can do a 14 by 16, you can do a 10 by 12 film in that unit, and you can find that on the Equipment Zone website if you'd like to take a look at the video.
And others, but yes, thank you. That's perfect. We are fans of that machine, the Easy Shake. So that's a great. Those are great insights. Thank you, Terry. In other words, you don't just buy a printer, turn it on, and money shoots out the back, is what I heard. So there is a little bit of there might be some support equipment that you need, but there also might be a learning curve that you're going to have to work through. So maybe you could give us some insights on that.
Jay, and you and I are longtime trainers in this industry, and as I said just last week, I was teaching a screen printing class, and I tell my classes, listen, when you go home, you're going to be able to burn a screen and set up the press and actually make money screen printing. But to become an expert, become a master printer, you're looking at probably 3 years, because there's so many variables in screen printing and other types of decoration. With direct-to-garment printing, direct-to-film printing, you're looking at 30 to 90 days to become an expert. The process is exactly the same every single time, and it's the same process, repeated. Again, that's why it's not necessarily a skilled labor job. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again. Jay, what separates one decorator from the next is the artwork. If you have good quality artwork, that's going to make all the difference in the world for you. So,
and that applies to both, right, Terry? That the artwork and the input. You were only as good as the input. Yeah,
exactly right. And so that's the one variable. Having good quality artwork that will make the difference for everybody. But Jay, like anything else, like any other decoration method, you need the proper information, and YouTube is not necessarily the best place to go for that. Now, I get it. We're on YouTube too, but get the proper training that you need. When you buy the machine, make sure that you're going to get some training with it, so you get started on
and ask how much training is included, and ask what's the service policy.
Is it a video or is it a person?
Right.
Because I want to talk to a person, Jay.
You also want to talk to somebody who has a reputation, because if it's just a nice guy on the other side of the country who may or may not have an agenda, it may or may not be helpful. But you and I have been doing this a long time, and it's crazy to see the Band-Aids that people try in the name of a workaround solution. They're not really even dealing with the problem. They're just trying to work around it, and it somehow in their mind it worked. And so now they go on YouTube and say, well, this is the only way to do it.
Exactly right. YouTube is filled with Band-Aids. And
Yeah, lots of Band-Aids.
you need proper training to get started on the right foot. Then you can go to YouTube and say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense because I already have an understanding of the business. But you know, Jay, we make it look like magic at the trade shows because you push the button and that's all you have to do. But you know, it's still a business. You still have to go out and promote your business. You got to price it. You got to get set up to buy T-shirts or whatever you're decorating. And you need to experiment, try new things, just like you, Jay. When you tried to put that transfer on the mesh of a hat, I thought, oh gosh, I would not have thought of that. That is so cool. So be willing to get out there and try some new things.
Yeah, it's fun, it's rewarding, and you do go through a discovery process. And you're gonna burn a few hats, deal with it. You're gonna mess up a few shirts, okay. You know, you're gonna melt some product because your temperature was too high or the pressure was
Jay,
too strong.
I had someone in the early days of TJet, I had somebody call me up and say, well, you know, I've had this machine for a year and I have a whole box of shirts that are misprinted. And I laughed and I'm like, oh, you're serious. You're a carpet decorator. You're going to have spoilage. Sometimes things are going to go wrong. Maybe you dropped the shirt on the way to the heat press. So you're correct. You're going to burn a couple of hats along the way.
Yeah, but I think you gain knowledge, you gain the insight and the confidence of what you're doing. And so for the next time, the dwell time would be less, the temperature could be lower, the pressure can be lower. And so all of that leads into it. And it's things like, Jacqueline asked, how strong is the DTF sheet? Well, it is strong because it has a matte finish usually on both sides. But if you crease it, you probably just ruined your film. So while it may be strong, it's still going to have some delicate properties to it. So, but these are all part of the learning curve. This is all part of the process. And there are no magic buttons, easy buttons, magic wands, no little magic spells, all of the, beads and whatever. You can't.
Jay, I've done that in seminars. I've said, okay, now let me show you where the magic button is. And the people in the back are doing this,
Hold on, let me get my phone. Where is it? Here it is.
There's no
That's
magic.
Mean, Terry. That's mean. There are no shortcuts. Okay, well, we're kind of rounding third, and we're heading home. Our time is getting shorter and shorter. Thank you again, everybody who's tuned in, and those who are going to probably see this later. We appreciate you being here, but we wanted to sprinkle in some insights and perspectives as well. And Terry and I have the unique advantage of having been screen printers for a long time and having associations with everything you see on the list and more. So Terry, what if I'm a screen printer? What would you wrap up with? Any wisdom, any advice? Give me some perspective here.
Well, Jay, when you first saw this machine, the first TJet, I remember thinking, man, screen printer's going to love this. And every trade show we went to, the screen printer said, say it ain't so. Yeah. I spent 20 years learning to screen print, and now you have this. But all those same people the next year came around and said, I didn't know how many orders I turned down until I saw this machine and said, oh, no, we can't do that. And thought, man, I could have done that with this machine. And here's my example, Jay. Family reunions, and every screen printer listening right now just cringed because, no, I don't have 150 people in my family. I've got 17, and little Susie's a 2.4, and everybody's got an Uncle Bob who's a 4X, and I don't want to pay for extra screens. And you're trying to price it so they won't order. And if I had a DTG printer, and I direct screen printers primarily to DTG just for this purpose, and I could say, okay, come back at 2:00. I'll have them ready for you. So, how about you, Jay? You deal with promotional products people all the time.
I do.
What are you going to tell a promotional products business?
Well, I'm lucky enough to be affiliated with Promo Kitchen, and we're a nonprofit, mentorship group. Shout out to Promo Kitchen. But yeah, I mean, whether you're a sublimator or an engraver, but if you're in the promotional products world, my promo peeps listening, they're trying to figure this out too. That there is definitely a convergence of all of these markets, printers, ink on paper, and apparel decorators, as well as the promo peeps. I think there's definitely going to be even more of a convergence in the next 3 to 5 years. But what I would tell my promo folks or my branded merch folks is that this is a control issue. This is an opportunity issue. And you may not be buying the printer at first for production reasons. You may be buying it to do those prototypes, to do the one-off, to do the surprise and delight kits, to make something for somebody that doesn't see it coming and really impress them with what's possible, so that you're having pointed discussions and you're going to be able to work on solving problems rather than just selling merch. You know, it changes the dynamic. It changes the conversation away from a transactional purchase to more of an emotional, I'm solving problems. You know, businesses, I don't know if you know this, Terry, businesses have marketing challenges, and screen printers can solve them, and embroiderers can solve them. Sign makers solve them day in and day out, and so do promotional product agencies. So for me, it's really about the control, the opportunities for marketing. And I believe you touched on it at the very beginning. You said the power of one. I love that phrase. The power of one, full color, digital. It's truly impressive. If we made something for everybody that was here today and with their name on it, they would keep that for a really long time, well past after it was, you know, reasonable, because it has their name on it. It's really hard to throw something away that has your name on it. So yeah, I would say that's my insight. Control in marketing. Think of those two things as well, whether you're a screen printer or somebody in promo.
Exactly.
So what's our conclusion? We're wrapping up. We see a few questions in there. Maybe we can get a couple of those. But you know, the saying, adapt or die, right, Terry?
Oh, well, you know, Jay, what I tell my
maybe a little harsh. Was that too much?
A little harsh. It's funny though. Every one of my screen printing classes, I always say, okay, always remember this. It's just a T-shirt. Nobody dies. Everybody relax.
Okay, so I need to say adapt and evolve, or you'll start to fade away. How about that? You become less relevant.
Exactly right. And I'll say quickly, I know we're getting to the end here. You know, when I started out, and Jay, when you started out as well, I was a screen printer. You were a screen printer. People down the street were embroiderers. People over here did transfers. But now it's very difficult today to not have multiple decoration methods to maintain your customer base, you know, because you're an embroiderer, but they're going to go down the street to get their screen printing or their direct to garment printing or whatever. And guess what? Those people down there also do embroidery. So you have to be able to offer more than one option to be successful today, I believe.
I couldn't agree more. And I also think there's been a factor, and you were reminding me of this, and when we were preparing about, you know, the acceleration of all of this, like the world of online stores and decorating, that was starting to move quickly. But once we hit COVID and through those lockdowns, I mean, boom, it was like at a pace I don't think any of us were prepared for.
Well, and you know, Jay, the people that did those online stores or did those promotional packs like you used to promote, those are the folks that survived COVID and survived. I mean, their business life survived.
Correct. Yeah, true. There was a lot of that. Well, you know, we want to make sure that one of the takeaways in our call to action is that we try to do things like this. We try to educate the market. We want to make sure that people know us for our reputation. We never claim to be perfect. We're always a work in progress too, but we're not going to hide behind the problem. We want to solve it. And so, you know, one of our call to actions was to increase training through those COVID days. You'll remember that. You and I were pretty busy.
We were busy. We were doing 2 and even 3 webinars a week, and they weren't webinars on, hey, buy a printer. They were webinars on, here's how you can keep your business doors open. Here's a thought on, here's how to print masks. we had a whole webinar on that.
Yeah, we did. We really did. We tried to go big and do the training. And so thank you for reminding me about that YouTube channel. We probably have, I don't know, more than 125. I think it's closer to 150 training videos here on our YouTube channel. And again, it isn't just a sales pitch. It's really breaking down what's possible for lots of decorators that can see interviews with people. Sometimes we're talking about marketing. Sometimes we're getting very technical and deep, and we're interviewing our techs, or they're walking through the step by step process. And it's 45 minutes and they go deep. And so for a lot of you that were asking questions about, you know, times and temperatures, and can I put this on a mug, or is this like sublimation, all of those things, please check out our YouTube channel. We've got way more information there than we could ever cover in 50 minutes on a webinar today. All right, so we are just about to the end of this. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Terry, I've got one more slide to show, and this is it. This is the contact slide. That means we've kind of reached the end of the run here, and where people who want to reach out, if they're interested. I also would love to share my screen for a second. I know that they were going to drop in the, we had a landing page built so that if somebody is really wanting more specific information, or you want to talk to Terry, or you want to talk to Amy, let me share my screen for a second. And what I'll share with you here is, let's see if I can do this. Chrome tab,
Jay,
there we go.
We're all happy just to answer your questions too. You don't have to feel intimidated that I'm going to get a sales pitch. We're happy to answer questions as well.
Oh, 100%. And if people did, thank you for clarifying that, making that even more obvious. But I think people that are listening today can understand that that's really your vibe. So here's the link. If you do want to get even more specific, and it is not just about a sales conversation, although there might be some that are ready. So we'll take those too, right? But making informed decisions. So tell us a little bit about who you are, how long you've been in business, and which one you're most interested in. Because Terry and Amy and the rest of our team, they can send you samples. You know, we can talk about DTG, we can talk about DTF, talk about how they complement your engraving business or your sign business. You know, like I said, I think the theme right now is convergence. People want to figure out how to maintain relevance and how to continue a profitable, fun. Don't forget, this business is supposed to be fun, right? I mean, like you said earlier, we're printing T-shirts here. We're not sending people to the moon or something like that. I don't know what you said.
Well, you know, Jay, it's also I always tell people that, you know, once you're in this business, you never leave. It's like Hotel California, because it's a regular business, but it's fun. It's always something new, and I think people just enjoy it too much to ever get out of it. I mean, I have a degree in journalism, Jay. I started a screen printing business right out of college.
and as you know, and my parents still hate that I bring this up, but I'm a college dropout. I made it through my junior year and decided, you know what, I'm making a lot more bootlegging these T-shirts than I was sitting in that econ class. So imagine that, right? To my parents' chagrin, and my own children now reminding me. But listen, that's it. That's what we had for today. Is there anything else that we need to cover that maybe I forgot? You're very much more the detail guy, and I'm kind of the ramble and wing it guy. So, Terry, is there anything else we need to wrap up with?
No, I think we've covered it all, and we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in today or watching this through the archive, and reach out to us if you have any questions at all.
Okay, well then I'm going to say thank you too. I want to appreciate your time, Terry, and thank you everyone, our team, both at Equipment Zone and all of the help that we've received from Graphics Pro. It's been an awesome collaboration. You know, if you haven't been paying attention to their magazine, they're doing some great things. So get that digital magazine or the real printed deal, whatever you like, and because there's lots of training and lots of insights in those magazines as well. You and I both, you know, maybe it's because of our age, but we enjoy getting the printed copies as well. And we like to, you know, dive in and from time to time, you'll see an article from Terry or me, but from so many great educators. And so we're big on education if you haven't figured that out at Equipment Zone. So, and I also want to give a shout out to the team behind us, both at Graphics Pro as well as at Equipment Zone, because sometimes you and I are the face of this, but it truly does take a team, and we appreciate everybody's help. So I'm going to turn it back over to James, unless there's something else. I think we're done here today, my friend.
All right. Thanks, guys. That was great. Thanks for the plug for the magazine. I always appreciate that. Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone this will be archived on the Graphics Pro website, which is graphics-pro.com. And also watch your inboxes for a follow-up email so you can watch us again or share it around your business. And for that, I think we're signing off. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys.